Welcome to another episode, everyone. This is part 2 of a Crip's fatal disrespect of a Hoover ignites a prison bloodbath. I was not going to do a part 2 because part 1 didn't get a lot of views. That's just how it works. But some of you asked for the part 2, and it's not right, and I said I was going to do it, and I should at least finish up the story, and so here it is. And when I left off, I was explaining that a Crip individual from up north, it appears, has cut and sliced an individual from Hoover. He had something in his hands, or at least it appeared to be so, because the Hoover individual had a long scar coming down, leading from his eye, after having gotten to a fight over some gambling with this individual from up north. T-Lo is chomping at the bit, as I said, and he's very upset. It's important to understand that if this individual used a weapon, then all bets are off, because they were going in there just to have a fight. They were supposed to be squabbling. It was between these two individuals. If this individual indeed did pull out a weapon and use it on another Hoover, well, there will be hell to pay. And T-Lo knows this, and so he is basically trying to force the young homie to say that this individual had a knife, that he used a weapon of sorts. He just basically broke down and agreed. First, he said he hadn't been stabbed. And he said, I can't explain this long slit coming down my face either, so I guess he did have something in his hand. T-Lo and the rest of us finally said, okay, fine. Let's get these individuals, let's attack them, and let's attack them now at yard recall. We all had our own weapons. We were sure that they had weapons as well. These individuals were not cowards. They were some players on the yard, but they stood tall in every situation as well. Everyone on this yard in High Desert stood tall in every situation. Every car, you had absolutely no choice. No one was going to show any weakness or back down from any situation. The only discrepancy that we're having over there doing our little get together is whether or not to attack these individuals right here, right now on the yard at yard recall, or to go inside of their cells, follow them inside of their building. They were all concentrated in one building, essentially. Follow them inside of the building at yard recall, run inside of their cells, and attack them like that. This is what T-Lo wanted to do. He wanted to go inside of the cell, and I already knew why. Because if you attack these individuals right here on the yard, you have 5 gun towers to deal with, where they all coming out trying to shoot at you. You're only going to be able to get in a few hits, a few sticks, and then you're going to have to get down, basically, unless you're going to take a chance on getting shot. But inside of someone's cell, you can sit there, you can take someone's life. This is where a lot of the unalivings happen in prison, is inside of a cell, because it's hard for the police to do anything about it. The gun tower is not about to shoot necessarily inside of the cell. He doesn't have a good angle. It rarely happens where they shoot inside of a cell. So you have time to take someone's life, basically. And I'm telling T-Lo, you want to kill him? I mean, we just attack him right here on the yard and then go on about our business. Some of us are going to be able to scatter and get away. We go inside of the cell. We in the building that we don't belong in. Everyone on the yard knows that we don't belong in this building. The police, including the targets. He was hell-bent on going inside of the cell. He wanted to go inside of the cell with the individual who he believed had stabbed the homie. He wanted this individual bad, and there was going to be no talking him out of it. He wanted 3 individuals to go with him, because it was this dude and his cellie. T-Lo is extremely small in stature, but his heart is bigger than his entire body. So we all decided, okay, fine, that's what we'll do. Me and a couple other dudes, a couple other homies were going to run up in this other dude's cell, a couple cells down from him. It was him and his cellie. They called yard recall. Yard recall. Oh, man. Here we go. So dudes are up there at the table and they looking back at us. It's like they can sense some tension. And we're following them, but we are keeping a long distance, but we're not heading to our building when they call yard recall. Certainly these individuals know that the fix is in. They can smell it. And we get closer and closer to them as they're heading into their building. They know something is up. I'm thinking they probably just about to turn around and get cracking on us. They're not about to give us a chance to run up in their cell. But they didn't. They just kept going up the stairs once we got inside of the building to their cells. And we followed them up. And when the police cracked all the cells on the top tier where these individuals were housed at. And everyone knew their assignments and ran inside of the cell. And it was nasty, man. It was really ugly, and I'm not proud of this situation. I'm really not. And if it were today, I would handle it differently, and there would be no more bloodshed. There wouldn't have been any bloodshed in that situation. Some situations you cannot avoid there in prison. Some you can. And this one, I believe, was absolutely avoidable. Nevertheless, 4 individuals ran into the individual cell who we believe had used the weapon on the homie. The homie was one of them that ran in there. And, I mean, it was bad. A couple of the individuals that were in there or the 2 individuals that were in there were hollering because the 4 individuals that were in there were stabbing them. Bad. And these individuals really didn't even have a chance to draw a weapon themselves to defend themselves. They were on them quick. I don't know how they let us follow them up the stairs and go inside of the cell. Like I say, I thought they was going to turn around, just get cracking right then and there. That's the best thing to do. At least you got the gun tower. It's going to be over with fast. Inside of the cell, you don't have a chance. They were overpowered and pulverized. Cell that we ran up in, it was not much better. Truthfully, I had more mercy than everyone else. I just have a good heart. I'm serious. I had more mercy than I didn't even want to see this bloodshed really happening like this. Nevertheless, I did feel like if this individual had used a weapon on the homie, then all of this was justified. It has to happen. If you use a weapon, we have no choice but to use our weapons as well. We can't fight you once you've used a weapon. That's a coward's way out, if you will. That would be absolutely frowned upon. We have to match your energy, if not one up you. So if you come with weapons and use it, and it was particularly because it was just supposed to be a fight, so you then escalated that fight into something more violent where it could have took someone's life, and he happened to be from Hoover. Well, that's a problem. That's a huge problem, particularly with the individuals that were on this yard, the Hoovers that were on this yard. But really, again, every group that was on this yard was tough. But the Hoovers were really tough. We went to the hole. All of us went to the hole for that situation. This is another thing that upset me, man. That's why I didn't want to do it like that. I thought I could have got away. There were no cases involved, didn't catch a case, thankfully. Didn't go to the SHU program, thankfully. But we sat back there in the hole for a while. And then we were released back to the yard. And nothing else happened when we went to the hole, because sometimes there's a second wave, if you will. First group goes, puts in the work, and then the victims group attacks back whoever's left on the yard, so forth and so on. This is normally how it goes. But in this case, there were still some Hoovers left on the yard. But these were some strong individuals as well. They just were not all there. So at the end of the day, they were not challenged. That was it. It could have went further. That was the end of the situation. We came back to the yard. We were not in contact with these individuals anymore. who the assault had happened upon, because we can't be together anymore. And that was it. But that's not it with T-Lo. Not by a long shot. Jeez. I mean, man, the dude just wasn't there. He was there. He's very smart, intelligent, and bright. I shouldn't say he wasn't all there. He just not to be played with. That's it. You just don't want to cross him in any way whatsoever. It was bad. Those dudes, the four that had rented the cell, they were in there leaking. They had a lot of holes in them. They had a lot of holes in them. man. And the cell that we were in, them dudes had a few holes as well. And they didn't have a knife either. They hadn't pulled out a knife. I don't know. I don't know. I'm surprised. They were not prepared, but I don't think that they saw this coming. They thought as well that their homeboy had just went in there and had a head-up fight. And, just going to leave it right there. It was supposed to be a fight between them two. And that was it. This can happen. This happens. It's rare, but it can happen because it's really a weapons on the yard. People are just going to use weapons, but it happens. So they're thinking it's over. They had a squabble. They're not knowing that their homie, at least perhaps, used some sort of instrument and sliced the young homie's face, that it's not over. Not just leaving it as a fight. So they were ill prepared. And it showed. And I would say that they suffered the bad end of that situation, unfortunately. That's what happened. That was part 2. I really didn't want to tell the rest of that because I'm not proud of that situation at all, actually. I feel like it could have been handled differently. But I'm going to bring you another story about this guy. Perhaps I'm just going to have to tell you when he stabbed the Southsider. But it didn't end there. That was an ugly situation. People got hurt. That's not all he did, though. Jeez. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Subscribe to my other channel, Reactionary Politics. The link is in the description. Stay safe and stay free, people.